Welcome back to Red Sox Focus, everybody. If you have been following this channel for any length of time, you already know that we do not just cover the guys on the big league roster. We track the pipeline, we watch the minor leagues closely, and we pay attention to the players who are quietly building towards something real down in the system. And right now, there is one name in the Red Sox organization that deserves a serious conversation because what he is doing in the early stages of 2026 is impossible to ignore. We are bringing back the prospect interview series here on Red Sox Focus, a recurring segment where we sit down with a player working his way through the system, break down where his game currently stands, and talk through what he needs to do to reach the next level. If there is a AAA name you want to see featured on this channel, drop it in the comments below. This series only works when the community is engaged, so let us know who you want to see. But when it came time to decide who to start this series with in 2026, there was really only one answer: a former top draft pick with legitimate power tools, a player who turned heads all spring and has come out of the gate swinging in AAA. That is Mikey Romero, and today we are sitting down with him and breaking down exactly why this season could be a pivotal one for both him and the Boston Red Sox. Before we get to the interview, though, let us set the table. Let us talk about why this particular moment matters for Mikey Romero and what he is actually showing us through the early portion of the 2026 season. The early numbers and why they matter 7 games into his AAA season. Romero is 7 for 22 with 2 doubles, a home run, and 5 RBI. That is a strong line by any measure, but the raw counting stats are not actually the most interesting part of what he has been doing. The more compelling story is underneath those numbers. It is in the quality of contact he is generating. His hardest hit ball this season came off the bat at 113.8 miles per hour. That single number is worth sitting with for a moment, because it is not just impressive in isolation. It is approximately 3 miles per hour, harder than anything Romero hit across the entire 2025 season. And as of right now, it is the hardest hit baseball recorded across both the AAA and Major League levels of the Red Sox organization in 2026. Beyond that peak number, his average exit velocity through this early stretch sits at 97.1 miles per hour, which means he is not just hitting one ball hard and coasting. He is producing hard contact at a consistent rate nearly every time he puts the ball in play. The small sample size disclaimer is real and worth stating clearly. 1 week of minor league baseball is not a definitive body of evidence, and these numbers will almost certainly normalize to some degree as the season progresses. That is just the nature of baseball. But the reason these early returns are worth highlighting is not because they represent a final verdict. It is because they represent the continuation of something that was already emerging last season. Even when Romero was struggling to find consistency at the plate in AAA in 2025, the exit velocity data still told the story of a player with genuine, above-average power potential. That foundation has not gone anywhere. If anything, it appears to have gotten stronger. What Romero is developing into is a player who could legitimately hit 20 or more home runs at the major league level on an annual basis, assuming the rest of his offensive game catches up to his raw power. The bat speed and the exit velocity are already there. The question has always been whether the contact quality and the plate discipline can sustain themselves over a long season against professional pitching. That is the next mountain to climb. What this means for the Red Sox. Now, let us be honest about the immediate roster picture, because it would be easy to get ahead of ourselves here. In terms of what Romero's hot start means for the Red Sox over the next few weeks, the answer is probably not a whole lot, at least not directly. The big league infield is fairly well constructed at the moment. Caleb Durbin has already picked up his first hit of the season, an RBI single, and looks comfortable in his role. Marcelo Mayer has been punishing left-handed pitching early on, which is exactly the kind of development the organization was hoping to see from him. If Mayer continues producing against southpaws at this rate, there is no real justification for limiting his playing time through a platoon arrangement. Those are the two positions Romero would most naturally slot into if he were called up, and right now, both of them are occupied by players who have earned their spots. So the path to the big leagues is not wide open. The door is not swinging off its hinges, but it is not locked shut either. The reason this season matters is because of what Romero is doing to his own standing within the organization. What a hot start in AAA accomplishes, even when the big league roster has no immediate vacancy, is that it moves a player up the internal depth chart. It makes him the obvious answer when the question eventually gets asked. And in a 162-game season, that question always gets asked. Injuries happen, slumps happen, trade deadline acquisitions create roster shuffling. September call-ups come into play. The teams that win in the second half are often the ones whose depth players were ready before they were needed. Alex Cora made a point of noting Romero's athleticism and defensive improvements this spring, and that kind of organizational awareness from the manager matters. It means that when the conversation turns to who the Red Sox call up in a pinch, Romero's name is already in the room. He is playing himself into the role of the most credible internal option at the middle infield positions, and that is not a small thing to accomplish in early April. What Romero still needs to demonstrate. There are two areas where Romero needs to show meaningful growth over the course of this season if he wants to turn a promising start into a legitimate call-up conversation by the summer. The first is offensive consistency, and more specifically, his strikeout rate. Last season, Romero's K rate sat around 30% for significant stretches of the AAA schedule. That number becomes a real problem at the major league level, where pitchers will locate and exploit a high strikeout hitter with far greater precision than they can in the minors. Romero showed in flashes last year that he is capable of making more consistent contact. The issue was that those stretches were surrounded by periods where the strikeouts piled up and the momentum stalled. The challenge for 2026 is to compress that variance. The exit velocity numbers confirm that the raw tools are legitimate. The job now is to show that the approach and the pitch recognition have matured alongside the physical tools. The second area is defense, specifically at second base. Romero's offensive potential has never really been in question. It is the reason the Red Sox selected him where they did in the draft, but second base is still a position he is actively learning rather than one that comes naturally to him. He has been expanding his versatility by taking reps at third base as well, which is the right move for a player trying to maximize his value to a major league roster. But the work at second base specifically needs to continue. The footwork, the double play pivots, the anticipation and positioning, these are things that develop through repetition over time, and Romero is still accumulating those reps. He is trending in the right direction. He is not yet finished getting there. If he can sustain his offensive production while showing genuine defensive growth at second base over the next few months, the conversation around him changes significantly. He stops being a prospect and starts being a contributor. Sitting down with Mikey Romero. Mikey has become something of a regular presence in our prospect coverage here on Red Sox Focus, and every time we sit down with him, something new stands out. This time around, we caught up with him coming off of what he described as a productive and eye-opening big league spring training, his first real extended look at that environment. And the conversation revealed a player who is approaching this season with a level of clarity and intentionality that is genuinely impressive for someone his age. When we asked him about spring training and what it meant to receive recognition from Alex Cora, specifically around his athleticism and defensive improvements, Romero was measured in how he framed it. He talked about going into camp with a single overriding goal to absorb everything around him, not to force a particular impression, not to manufacture a highlight reel moment, but simply to be present and learn. His locker was positioned next to Isiah Kiner-Falefa, and Romero was deliberate about taking advantage of that proximity. The two had extensive conversations about defensive positioning and the habits that underpin consistent big league defense. For a player still developing at second base, Having that kind of direct access to a Gold Glove caliber defender is an invaluable resource, and Romero clearly recognized it as such. He also spoke about the off-season work he put in, specifically around athleticism, adding fluidity and explosiveness to his movement patterns in ways that he felt were reflected in how he moved on the field during spring. The fact that Cora noticed and commented on it publicly was meaningful, but Romero framed it as confirmation rather than as the point of the exercise. The work was the point. The recognition was a byproduct. On the subject of Trevor's story, Romero reiterated what has been a consistent theme every time we talk to him. Story has been one of the most influential figures in his development over the past couple of seasons, both offensively and defensively. That relationship has clearly evolved beyond a simple veteran-rookie dynamic into something more like genuine mentorship. As for Wilson Contreras, who joined the organization this offseason, Romero acknowledged that their interactions during camp were mostly lighthearted rather than deeply instructional. Contreras made an impression as a warm and engaging presence in the clubhouse, even if the conversations did not carry the same developmental weight as his time with Story and Kiner-Falefa. The most telling exchange of the entire interview came when we asked him about the mental side of this season, specifically how he thinks about preparing himself day to day when he knows that a major league opportunity could be one phone call away. His answer was about as grounded as you could hope to hear from a 22-year-old in his position. He said plainly that he is not thinking about Fenway Park. He wants to get there. That is no secret, and he does not pretend otherwise, but he was clear that spending mental energy on that destination does him no good in the present moment. His job right now is to perform in AAA. His job is to hit the ball hard, play sound defense, and check the boxes the organization has set out for his development. When the Red Sox decide he is ready, that will be their call to make. What he can control is making that decision as obvious and as easy as possible. That mindset is harder to develop than it sounds. A former top draft pick, carrying years of expectation and the natural impatience that comes with believing in your own ability, it would be entirely understandable for a player in that situation to press, to try to manufacture results, to lose the present moment chasing the future one. Romero, by his own account, has found a way to avoid that trap. And if that self-awareness shows up in his day-to-day performance, the way it showed up in this conversation, it is one more reason to take his development seriously. He closed with a line that probably captures his entire approach to 2026 better than anything else. He is going to hit the ball hard, play good defense, and try to force the organization's hand. Simple, direct, and exactly right. We also asked him the lighter question we always close these interviews with. If he could take one ability from any fictional character and apply it strictly to his baseball game, what would he choose? His answer was the Flash's speed, and the reasoning behind it was telling. He identified speed as the area of his game with the most room for improvement, the lowest hanging fruit, as he put it, and went straight to addressing a weakness rather than amplifying a strength. Even in a fun hypothetical, the self-awareness does not turn off. What to watch for? A sincere thank you to Mikey Romero for making time for this conversation. These guys have full schedules, and the fact that he sat down with us is something we genuinely appreciate. Stepping back from the interview and looking at the full picture, the exit velocity data, the defensive development, the organizational awareness from Cora, and the mentality Romero brought into this conversation, the profile that emerges is one of a player who is moving in the right direction across almost every dimension that matters. Is 2026 the year Mikey Romero makes a tangible impact on a Boston Red Sox team with legitimate postseason aspirations? That question will ultimately be answered by circumstances that neither he nor we can fully predict right now, but what he can control is trending the right way. The tools are real, the mindset is right, the work is being done. Keep this name on your radar all season long. There are going to be multiple windows, through injury, through roster movement at the trade deadline, through September call-ups, where Romero could find himself in a position to contribute at the big league level. When that moment comes, the early returns from 2026 suggest he will be ready for it. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the interview and this format. If there is another prospect you want us to cover in this series, tell us who, and we will make it happen. If you are new to Red Sox Focus, we are here every single day covering the Boston Red Sox from every angle. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss anything. Hit the like button if you got something out of this one. It helps more people find the channel, and it lets us know the content is landing. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next one.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.